This is, you guys are probably gonna shit yourselves if you guys haven't already heard. But are there any Guild Wars 2 fans in the audience? Because they announced today that Guild Wars 3 is currently in development. They did leak it today. They talked about it at the investor meeting. And like, yeah, oh shit is right. Yeah, Guild Wars 2 ain't bad. No, it's not. I think this is a game that we will probably all go play. So I kind of wanted to read this. It's been over a decade since ArenaNet's fantasy MMO Guild Wars 2 launch. It's been years since the 2012 PC debut. The team has released several expansions and updates for it, with the latest being the 2023 Secret of the Obscure. With 2 more expansions still in the works, set for this year and 2025 respectively, Guild Wars 2 players aren't hurting for new content. That's why the news that ArenaNet is working on a proper 3rd game in the series came as such a shock. Yeah, normally ArenaNet doesn't really tease stuff, guys. They keep things kind of locked down. So like, for them to tease something like this is pretty crazy. News of this comes from an NCSoft shareholder meeting, as reported by the Korean outlet Invan and translated by Reddit user Sidious, so you know it's legit. In which the publisher's CEO, Park Byung-moo, casually name-dropped Guild Wars 3 while discussing the franchise. He confirmed the game is in development, but didn't offer any other information beyond that. The immediate response from the community has been mixed. A new game is typically an exciting prospect, but in an era of live service games that receive periodic updates, a sequel can sometimes mean the loss of investment as the community moves on to the next big thing. Yeah, so the only people upset about this are maybe the Guild Wars 2 fans that have spent thousands of dollars on Guild Wars 2. Everybody else is super excited. Fans on Reddit say that they're worried about how long Guild Wars 2 will remain active if ArenaNet moves on to Guild Wars 3. Will the 2 continue to get periodic updates, or will the studio eventually shift over to Guild Wars 3 full-time? These are the most uncertainties of live games, and also living in a digital era in which games people invest time and money into can just vanish because companies don't consider them worth it to upkeep. Guild Wars 2 has lasted this long and is still getting expansions because it has a dedicated community. So it's understandable some might view this mere suggestion of a new game as a sign that one chapter is closing. But whatever the case may be, the release of Guild Wars 3 seems far off. Whispers of a Guild Wars 3 have been circulating for a few years now, with Kotaku reporting that ArenaNet was in the early stages of working on a sequel back in 2019. However, it wasn't greenlit at the time, so something has clearly changed in the years since. So my thoughts on this are that if the CEO is willing to mention this, like, they are not... Typically, NCSoft keeps things pretty locked down. Most companies do. Most game companies keep their games pretty locked down until they're ready to start teasing stuff. I think he intentionally teased the name of the game and the fact that it was in development because it's actually nearing probably the ending stages of development. I need this. I think that both Guild Wars games are fantastic. I never got to like super heavily invest in them, but I've watched hours and hours of content in both those games. They look tremendously fun. I will absolutely be playing Guild Wars 3, depending on nothing. I'm just going to play it. It's going to be a new MMO. It's going to be fun. Honestly, like, I would expect more news about this as we move forward. Yeah, they only like kind of obscurely mentioned it in the investor meeting, but you don't really drop names like that in a public investor meeting like that unless you're like ready. You know what I mean? We need some new MMOs. That is true. We got Dune. We have the Dune MMO coming out too. But yeah, I thought this was pretty big news. Like, I think that Guild Wars 2 has a very dedicated population, and I understand why people might be upset that they're even thinking about Guild Wars 3, but also, not really. Like, wouldn't you be excited? Like, I assume that they'll probably port over a decent amount of the stuff from Guild Wars 2. Even if they don't, you gotta understand that what you buy in a game, guys, it's all temporary. All of it is temporary. You know that when you buy it, okay? Like, everything that I've spent money on in Black Desert Online, it's all temporary. When the servers go away, so does all of my shit. Okay? Like, yes, that might happen in 20 years, but like, when you buy things in a video game, it's not necessarily gonna be permanent, especially in like a live service game. You know this when you spend money on the game. Right? Like, it is what it is. Honestly, BDO2 when? I don't think so. I think that they really like where Black Desert is. I think that they're really focused on Crimson Desert is their first like solo player RPG that they're coming out with, and Pearl Abyss is going to do a great job with Crimson Desert. It's going to be game of the year. I need this. But as far as Guild Wars go, I actually do think that this is actually probably a little bit closer than this article even lets on. Because, like, again, you don't drop this in an investor meeting unless it's actually really far through development. And based on this, they said they've been potentially working on it since 2019. So, like, that's 6 years, right? Like, even if it wasn't approved right away, that's at least like probably 4 or 5 years into development. That means it's probably in the later stages, which means we might be looking at an alpha or beta as soon as 2025. An engine update for BDO. Yeah, if we got an engine update for BDO, that would be absolutely crazy. If we're going to do a BDO 2, it would have to be Crimson. No, I think they specifically did not want Crimson Desert to be a sequel to BDO because BDO would just die. If Crimson Desert was really good, that's what the Guild Wars 2 fans are very nervous about, is that Guild Wars 2 is just going to die because Guild Wars 3 is out. But, like, they're just going to go play Guild Wars 3, man. Like, it is what it is. You know what I mean? It's like Overwatch 1 and Overwatch 2. Like, well, honestly, it's a bad example. I really hope it isn't like Overwatch 1 and Overwatch 2. Overwatch 1 and 2 were exactly the same game. I don't care what anybody says. There's like minor changes, but it's basically exactly the same fucking game twice, and they made everybody pay for it again. Very frustrating. Very, very frustrating. So, like, I hope that it's not like that, but, like, also we've also got, like, what, Dota 3 or Dota 2 or whatever coming out soon as well. And Dota is not going to port over all the previous skins, and people are really upset about that too. Guys, you're playing a live service game. Eventually, the servers just don't run anymore, and the world moves on. So the money that you spend on a live service game is not permanent. You know this when you spend the money, whether you want to admit it to yourself or not, is irrelevant. It's the same thing with StarCraft 2 is a good example, but it's the same thing with League of Legends. Although League of Legends is so popular, obviously they're not going to shut down the server, but like the money you spend on League is not permanent either. A good example is StarCraft 2. StarCraft 2 is not much longer for the world. I almost guarantee they shut down StarCraft 2 before long. Yeah, they've got the servers running on like maintenance mode right now, but like, and I don't expect any of the money that I spent on StarCraft 2 to be refunded to me in any way. I got my worth out of it. In fact, I wish more games were like StarCraft 2. I spent $60 on the game, and that was it. I just owned the game. Boom. Done. Okay? And then, like, they eventually added cosmetics many years later. But, like, and you could spend money on that, too. But, like, I just enjoyed having, like, you bought the game, and then you had the game. And then an expansion would come out, and you would buy the expansion, then you had it. You didn't have to deal with sunsetting, like in Destiny 2. They just sunset all the old content, so you spend money on it, and then a year later, that content can't even be played anymore. It's very frustrating, games like that. It's really annoying, but like, you know, that's what happens in live service games. Destiny is like probably the worst example of a live service game that does this. There are still pro tournaments for SC2. The game isn't dying. That's copium. That's super copium. Keep in mind, I played StarCraft 2 at its peak, and then I played it when it's not at its peak. I constantly follow the StarCraft 2 community. You'll notice that there's not very many I follow a lot of the big StarCraft 2 streamers. Here's like Winter right here. Winter's streaming right now. This is one of the biggest content creators for StarCraft 2. He's basically me for StarCraft 2. Okay. The idea that to review VODs and like poke fun at people and make jokes and stuff, where do you think I got it? It's this guy right here. Okay, that and Day 9. Okay. Absolutely goated content creators that play StarCraft 2. But like, even the best content creator only has 651 viewers right now. It's not because his content is bad. Like, there's only 2K in the category right now. The game is just kind of going downhill. It's just kind of trickling out. Like, you have the ESL reruns in the top row. Okay, like let's not be hasty here. Yeah, there's a 500K tournament, but like that's because like there's like big boy like corporations kind of sponsoring the tournament, and there is like a pro scene for it. But like Blizzard doesn't support that. Part of the reason that StarCraft 2 tanked is because, I mean, StarCraft 2 did amazing. It was the RTS of its time. It was absolutely incredible, but it could have been even better. If Blizzard had actually supported its professional esports scene, it would have been a way better game, and more people would have stuck with it. It would have been huge. But Blizzard has no idea how to manage an esports team. I will point at Overwatch as a perfect example. They tried to do it in Overwatch because they saw what League of Legends was doing. They saw what Riot Games was doing. And then they
Goods
tried to do it in Overwatch.
just resubscribed for 28 months. Damn, only 28 months. Feels like 28 years.
They tried to do it for Overwatch, and it completely tanked, right? They had to cancel the Overwatch Pro scene, and that looks so bad as a company. Blizzard just doesn't understand how to support its community. Blizzard's community is better at supporting the game than Blizzard is. That's just how it is. Blizzard was ruined by Activision. No, don't blame it all on Activision. It was already headed downhill before Activision. I don't think, like, Activision did make it worse. But yeah, this is kind of just my thoughts on Guild Wars 3. I think it's very exciting. Obviously an MMO that actually could be good. We have a lot of MMOs in creation. People talk about, oh, it's the new MMO.
Silence.
Skull and
just
Bones.
resubscribed for 7 months.
And then it's Skull and Bones. You know what I mean? Like, that's what we get. Or we get like games that aren't even actual real games, right? Guild Wars 2 is an incredibly good MMO. It is proven good. Guild Wars 1 was arguably in some ways better, right? Like, so I'm excited for Guild Wars 3 because like you're getting a sequel to an MMO that was already successful. So like, you know that these developers theoretically understand how to make a very successful MMO, which most developers don't understand how to do right now. Overwatch is not even close to dead, man. It has a lot of online players, almost top 5 every time. Overwatch 2, for the most part, is kind of dead. Like, compared to where Overwatch 1 was at its peak, I feel that Overwatch 1 was a far, far more popular game. And because Overwatch 2 flopped on, like, 8 different levels to provide, like, meaningful PvE content, like, Overwatch has an for lack of a better word, an overwhelming ability to make some incredible PvE content. Because of how Overwatch is designed as a game, they could make some incredible like PvE raids or like missions to complete that would be a lot of fun for people to like play with. But it's all squandered. It's all just crap. And they promised it all, and now they're saying that they're just not going to get it. So like they scrapped all of it. Yeah, they scrapped basically everything. And so Overwatch 2 is kind of just like starting to trickle downhill, a lot like StarCraft 2 did, because Blizzard just doesn't support its own game. It is what it is. I have zero faith in Blizzard's ability to support its community. It's a lot like Pearl Abyss isn't supporting my tournament. My tournament for Black Desert is literally the largest prize pool tournament. And teams, the number of teams that we've seen signed up is the largest that we have ever seen in the Black Desert community in the history of the game. And Pearl Abyss is not supporting it. Okay, like that's where we're at. Now, they're not supporting it because in their eyes, banning Shy is like an unholy offense. And so like I understand that, but like Pearl Abyss does not offer a tremendous amount of support to its content creators outside of NA and EU. Okay, Korea canceled its content creator program because they didn't feel like it was worth it. Okay, like Pearl Abyss doesn't really care about content creators in general, unless it's NAEU does a pretty good job of supporting its creators, but even then, they're limited by what the KR office will allow them to do. So even on big tournaments like this, they were offering me a very small amount of pearls, even if I did unban Shy. Like, it's just not there. The support's just not quite there. Versus, like, you look over at, like, League of Legends tournaments and things like this, the support is there. Like, Riot Games will support its community. It built its own, like, esports scene, right? Like, it's just... I don't know, like some companies understand it, other companies don't, but like Blizzard, Overwatch is plagued by broken promises. Is the biggest problem with Blizzard.